Hey, Norcal Karters. It is Monday, and it's the 21st of February. And if you're wondering why we're by the fire pit, we're testing out the remote capabilities of Norcal Karters in the live stream. So we have a couple of guests on with us tonight. We have Daniel and his son Silvio. We have Ryon Beachner on, and we might have some special guests that are going to chime in a little bit later. So the chat lines are open right now. And again, this is really, it's going to be a very free-flowing show. It's testing out the remote capabilities to see what we can get away with when we go out to the tracks or to special events. And so welcome to Norcal Karters. This is the live stream again. It's Monday. And you can find more information on Norcal Karters at norcalkarters.com, on Facebook. And please, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. And our goal for YouTube is to get to 1,000 subscribers. That will unlock other mobility options for us when we go to the tracks or other special events if we have over 1,000 subscribers. So once again, we have the Fireside Chat, and we're going to bring on to introduce themselves Dan and Silvio. All right, Dan, you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Yay.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm Daniel. This is my son, Silvio. We've been into karting for, I guess, a couple years now, and run the local tracks around here, primarily Dixon, Prairie City, and Stockton. Got into it pretty much. The kids are riding quads, and we'd been to some IMSA races and some other stuff, and they've been watching YouTube, all kinds of different racing, and they came across some kart racing, and I had a friend in high school that ran karts. And so this is back in the late 80s and early 90s. And so he asked me, hey, what do you think about getting a kart? And I said, I don't know, let's look into it and see what we can do. So we ended up picking up a kart, and we've been hitting the track ever since, mostly recreationally. Nothing competitively, but it is fun on the track, and he likes being out there. He likes getting in traffic, and so it's been a good experience for us. Met a lot of super good people, and I've noticed with karting that there's a lot of networking that goes along with the folks that you meet, and so it's been helpful for us. And so now we're kind of at a point where it's nice to introduce other people to the sport, and the kids don't have any friends that are really into it. We have one friend that's into it, kind of on the running electric karts indoors and stuff. So be nice to introduce them to something a little different. And so that's kind of where we're headed. So we're hoping to get some more people in the sport with, showing up at Euro Sundays with the karts and stuff, and trying to get some more people to show up to that, just as kind of an introduction into it. So it's been great for us. It's been a lot of fun, and so that's where we're at right now.
And then, so you mentioned your sons found karting, and then they showed interest. Do you remember how they actually found it? What sources?
Yeah, Silvio was watching some stuff online, and it turned out that at Laguna Seca WeatherTech, they'd had some supercar races in there, and then that turned into watching some other guys just doing like some mods to their karts, and just buying beaters and modding them and doing things they shouldn't be doing with them. And so it kind of sparked his interest. We like taking things apart and seeing if we can make them go faster and stuff. And so he was on board. He was like, I want to try this. And so we looked at a few different karts, and ended up picking up a kart just blocks from your house, actually. And we've been hitting it ever since.
Very cool. So we're going to get more into your background as well, as far as your karting background. Okay. But let's bring on our other guest, Ryon Beachner. Ryon, welcome to Norcal Karters.
How's it going?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I guess this is the part where I explain my background, what I do, all of that.
Plug your business, your background, why you're in karting, why you're on the show.
Yeah,
all that good stuff.
I'm in karting not because I want to be, but because I was effectively born into it. No, I work with Freem USA. I'm their U.S. distributor for all of karting and motorsport stuff. My introduction to karting was actually when I was 4 years old, when I got in through my dad. My dad actually wound up starting a kart shop that is still around today. I'm still involved with it as well. We do a bunch of recreational stuff. That's Two Wild Karting. I've raced all over the place. I'm actually based down in Southern California, not NorCal like you guys, but I've done local, regional, national level stuff until we got kind of too busy with the race team stuff. I ran the team at a national level for about 3 years, 2014, 2015, 2016. We were fortunate enough to win SCUSA Supernats once, Pro Tour 2 years running, and Rotax Nationals. Got the chance to go to Worlds, do some of that with some of my drivers as well. But now my full-time thing is doing custom suits, shoes, gloves, all of the driving equipment, and some teamwear. And I also work with Ron White Racing and more recently GFC, providing all of their suits and apparel stuff. So
I like how you name drop 2 NorCal kart shops. I like that.
Well, I mean, I guess I shouldn't leave out the other NorCal teams we work with. Alex Keys is down here now, but he was up in NorCal. And then Austin Elliott with Speed Sense as well.
There you go. Perfect. It looks like we have another guest that just signed in. We have Steve Cameron. Let's see how this is going to go, Steve. You ready to go?
Hey.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
All right.
Back from travel. So.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us tonight, we're doing a fireside chat, and this we're really just trying to test out our capabilities for mobile and remote broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
So our other guests just gave a little introduction to themselves on who they are, why they're in karting, why they're on the show. So why don't you do the same for us? Who's Steve Cameron? Why are you on the show? And what'd you do this past weekend?
Actually, I stayed home. I stayed home and worked on the on our race team. So as you know, I promote the Rock Sonoma series, but my real job is running a race team in IMSA and SRO. So while Christian and his mum were in Florida racing the Rock Cup winter tour race, I stayed at home and worked and tried to get ready for our upcoming race. We actually leave on Wednesday to run the first round of the SRO series in GT4 at St. Pete. So Christian raced there in Karts this weekend, and I'm going to race the GT4 cars there on this coming weekend. So, I guess the reason I'm on the show is obviously I'm passionate about karting. I've started karting in New Zealand when I was just a kid, and when came here and set up our race team. And then actually what got us into karting was when I started running Mamo in his first year in car racing. We joined up with Track Magic, so was crazy enough to set up a kart shop and become a Track Magic dealer, and have been doing it ever since.
Very cool. Shout out to the Track Magic Owners Group.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for the quick introduction. I'm going to bring everybody up. Bear with me for a second here. So once again, we're just really trying to test this whole mobile live stream thing out. And I figured...
You're looking crazy tonight. What the... Wow. Is that here? What is
on
that
tonight's episode of Doomsday Preppers?
Yeah, I have my fire pit going.
It looks like you got a possum on your head.
This is one of my favorite beanies. Yeah. It's so warm and comfortable. A friend's mom made it for me like 20 years ago, and it's just...
I thought you said it was a fireside show, not a comedy. So
yeah. It's just, I think this hat is just, it's my personality all in one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Is that a hot mess?
Yeah.
So again, thanks for coming on tonight. We might have a couple of other guests chiming in a little bit later. But
Yep.
I definitely appreciate you guys, signing in. And again, we're testing the remote capabilities here, but we're going to talk about karting. We're going to go all over the place with this thing. I don't know if you caught it earlier, Steve, when Daniel and Silvio did their introduction. But
I just caught the tail end of it, that they were running and like the local clubs, Davis Dixon and places like that, and had enjoyed the experience and got to meet lots of people and had great support. And I just caught that last little bit of it there.
Yeah, so to me they're the perfect recreational karters.
Right.
They do it for the recreation of karting. They're not under a big tent. They're not traveling around to the big series. They support their local tracks and they just go drive. And then since we're talking about them, we'll bring them up as well. But let's see. If you're wondering why I'm scrolling around my screen, it's again I'm doing everything on my cell phone. Believe it or not, I love this technology stuff. So I'll bring them up, but where Dan really caught my interest and why I really wanted him to kind of share a story on Norcal Karters. He's been doing these cars and coffee thing, these events, and he brings his cart out there. Him and his son go out there. They network with everybody, and he's been telling me just like how exciting it's been, how many people come up to him at each one of these events. But without me telling the whole story, let's have Dan and Silvio talk about it.
Yeah, so what we've been doing is we tried this last year without much success last year. But the events we go to is basically it's a cars and coffee type event. It's called Euro Sundays here in Modesto, and so you have a lot of different cars coming out, everything from Ferraris to Lamborghinis, a lot of JDM, and old and new Corvettes. It's technically Euro, but people bring a lot of stuff out, and so it's just a nice low key get together once a month, Sunday mornings. It's the third Sunday of every month, and it's hosted here in Modesto. And so we started bringing our carts out. We had one guy bring his cart out and stuff. And so we got a pretty decent response when we first tried it. This year, we started going on Facebook, advertising a little more. And so this last round that we went through, which was last Sunday, there was probably 100 cars out there, roughly, maybe a little better than that. And like I say, everything you can imagine out there, from Porsches, old and new, to Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Skylines, all these different cars. And what was interesting about it is I had some other karters show up, and right at the entrance of where it was hosted at is where they parked at. And so we had our carts right there when everybody came in. And so we had a lot of foot traffic coming by. It was really surprising. A lot of the drivers that have these really high-end cars had previously been in karting at different levels. Some recreationally, some were on teams, some have raced overseas and stuff. And so a lot of questions, a lot of pictures, a lot of kids getting into the carts, just want to sit inside of them. And so they were kind of a magnet to a pretty good extent. It's nice when people are walking by and they're like, whoa, this is different. And they stop by and, they have all these questions for you about your carts and about how you got into it. Where do they find carts for sale? And, where do they find parts? And where did we race at? And how fast do they go? And those are some of the typical questions. But it was a really neat experience. We'd like to grow it and get a bigger presence out there. And so I'm thinking this is a good opportunity to do it. People have been kind of holed up in their houses for the last couple of years, so they're coming out. There's a lot of people out there. There's plenty of coffee and donuts and pastries nearby, and it's just it's a really neat event to attend. And so I'm really hopeful that if we advertise sooner, I kind of did it last minute this time, but if we can get some more advertised a little sooner on Facebook, the other platforms, and get some more people out there, it'd be a really neat event. So I was happy the other guys showed up, and just a really decent turnout. So very, very, very fun. definitely worth going to.
Yeah, and Dan and I were talking about earlier off camera with I've done a couple of the cars and coffees here in Galt, and every time I go out there with a cart, there's always someone that walks up to me and says, "Oh yeah, I used to cart." Generally, it's usually in 1980 or 1990, and but it's just kind of interesting how something as simple as cars and coffee, you know, there's that common bond, and there's so many racers that relate to karting, or just even cars enthusiasts in general.
Yeah, there are.
Ryan,
We had
okay.
come up.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, we had several come up to us, and which was kind of cool because you kind of, you know, you go into it not knowing quite what to expect, and of course, every kid that walks by is like a magnet to it, and they want to come by and look at the carts, and they want to sit in them, and then, but you have a lot of parents too that are like, how much do the carts cost, and where can I run them at, and you know, is it hard to find parts for them? And so I think once they realize that you don't have to shell out a ton to get a decent cart and get on the track, and there is plenty of part support, and that's one of the first things we realized when we got our cart and got on the track. We're really fortunate. I think one of the first tracks we went to was Dixon, and we met Johnny Cope. He turned us on to some people and played follow the leader with my kid and knocked down his track time or his lap time and stuff. And then same thing at Stockton and Prairie City. So you end up meeting people, and we can share that information, and people can, they can, you know, you don't have to necessarily go buy a brand new cart with a new Swift motor on it and the latest chassis and get the trailer and the electric lift and all that stuff. We don't have any of that stuff, and we have a blast when we do it. So it's something you can get into. It's not a high cost to get into it. It's a little bit to maintain, but it's when you get out there and hammer down on it, it's worth it.
Perfect. And that's going to be a good segue into Ryan. So why don't you talk about Two Wild Karting? And I know you can fill up about 45 seconds for me while I refill my fire pit. But piggyback on what Dan just talked about, and talk about the direction of Two Wild Karting over the past couple of years.
Yeah, so I think it was 2018-ish is kind of when we shuttered our national program stuff and just decided to focus on going back towards local stuff. We went back to, at that point, it was just LAKC, just Tri-C, which are the two larger clubs down here in Southern California. We did that for another 2 years or so. And I always felt like no matter what we did as a shop, I always had people trying to come in and get into the sport who, you know, they're willing to pay for services. They're willing to go ahead and do it. But the issue we ran into was we were too busy going to races. And I would feel bad when somebody wants to go ahead and buy a cart from me and store it with me. But then when they say, okay, when can we take this out? It turns into well, you know, we're going to this race on this day and this race on this day. And next thing you know, there's just no time, because between events we're prepping for the next event. And, you know, it just became kind of a marathon. So 2020 is when I unfortunately enough, had my trailer stolen when we came back from a race. Still had a bunch of customer carts in it. Still had all my tools, spare parts, everything. And pretty much overnight, I found out that the last 8 to 10 years of, you know, hard work was gone, and all the insurance money was going to go to, you know, paying back my customers. So at that point, I'm just like, you know what? I've had this feeling for the last 3-4 years. Let's go ahead and do something different. You know, there's got to be a market for this. So, you know, last year was a little bit slow. This year has definitely picked up. Just the word of mouth and how our recreational stuff has grown has been kind of amazing just in this first year. Well, now we're going into our second year of it. But, you know, on any given Wednesday, we have between 5 and, you know, 15 different drivers we're bringing out. We store, transport, do the support for guys, because a lot of people down here just, you know, they want to be involved in karting because it brings them around like-minded individuals. It's good networking. It's, you know, we're all race fans, whether that's Formula One or IndyCar, NASCAR, whatever it is. You're not going to a sports bar and, hanging out with buddies and watching racing, really. That's more football, baseball, basketball, all the stick and ball sports. So it's turned into something where we have a bunch of people out to Cal Speed or whichever, sometimes we go to Adams or wherever down here. And for me, it's relaxing because I'm not having to, worry about tuning karts, tuning engines. Hey, somebody just crashed in the last heat race. Now we're thrashing to get them on track for the next one. So we've kind of tried to be a way into the sport for people, and just be helpful however we can, because we understand that there's definitely demand in the sport for people who aren't racing.
And I missed part of it when I was reloading the fire pit. Did you get into kind of the environment of the SoCal area and Cal Speed and kind of the makeup of the different shops and teams?
Yeah, so we have a lot of our shops down here are more so race teams than they are shops. We've got, the big ones down here are going to be Nash Motorsports. You've got RPM, Ryan Perry Motorsports. You've got HRT/MDG, who are now kind of joined forces again. You've got DMG, which was previously Empire Karts. Phil Giebler Racing. You have all of these different outfits that, are at most of the major events. Formula Works as well. But a lot of these guys fall into the same trap that kind of I was in, where for recreational type of guys, they maybe don't have the time, or they don't have the, the bandwidth to be able to handle that type of stuff. So, there's, Phil Giebler's also been kind of dipping his toes more into the recreational side, focusing more on that, not going to all the Pro Kart Challenge stuff, all of the other, regional stuff. So it's been interesting to see how things are shifting. But it's been cool to see how, the track is getting busier on days that aren't races, when, not long ago, a Wednesday would be a ghost town at Cal Speed.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I kind of seen where now that I'm just a lot more involved Monday through Friday in karting, away from my, old position at Swede Tech. Yeah. I've been going to the local tracks, primarily out to Prairie City, and I'm that recreational guy. I go out on a Thursday, I do my laps. I'm trying to get out of the gate, before 12 or 1 o'clock. I'm home by 3. I can get dinner ready for the family, and it's been really neat. It's been really fun. It's also been very eye-opening when you look at the demographics of recreational karter versus race karter. They're two different worlds, and I've been around the racing karter for so many years, and I have so many great friends and relationships because of that. But it's really been neat going back and almost just to the grassroots and just enjoying karting as just a recreation. I'm not trying to count trophies anymore. I don't even know how many races I'll do this year, because I just have fun going out and just pounding laps.
Well, and it's interesting that you point out the demographic difference between the racing karter and the recreational karter. For me, it's kind of surprising that there really isn't that big of a difference between the two if you look at incomes and things like that. But
correct.
What is the difference is just how much personal bandwidth can that person really sink into the sport, and what do they want to get out of it? The type of people that we're working with now, they show up to the track in, some sort of supercar or something exotic, and, they're passionate about their cars. They're passionate about motorsports, but they don't have the time, or they don't have what they think the budget is to go ahead and actually, make a real run at it. But they absolutely love driving. They want to get out there, and they just enjoy it for what it is. For them, it's, instead of snowboarding or mountain biking, they're going to the kart track, and it's just another thing they do for fun.
Yeah. Can I say something, Jason, real quick? Just
Absolutely.
to piggyback off that?
Yes.
Yeah, what he's saying, I think what he's saying is exactly right. We go out there, it's definitely more about the drive than anything else. We're not chasing podiums or anything like that. We make little games. We'll do time attacks. We'll do follow the leader, etc. But the flip side of that is what he was talking about earlier is what is also kind of nice is all the off tracks stuff that we do because when you're polishing the car because we like our stuff pretty when you're working on stuff when you're swapping tires or changing a clutch or whatever you're doing they're learning to wrench on stuff, they're making connections between things, and so it's good mentally for them too because there's a lot of effort that goes into things off the track than just spinning your wheels on the track, and so that's important to know too, especially for a lot of moms and dads out there that are thinking about, do I even want to try this? Yeah, you can do it, and it's really kind of nice when you can spend that time on a weekend after you hammer some laps out and come home and we barbecue and stuff. The next day we'll clean everything up and adjust stuff if we have to, and start them in the driveway and annoy the neighbors and stuff. So it's a fun hobby. It really is. I don't want to say a hobby, but it is what it is. We really enjoy doing it, and but there's to what Ryan was saying. There's some other sides of it that are also important for a family side.
But I think what you just said touches on something, is that there's this divide between people who are racing and karting and people who are just having fun with it. I don't think there should be any shame in saying it's a hobby. It's the same thing like, my hobby outside of racing or karting or whatever we're going to call this. I mean, granted, it's one of my businesses, but I also do a lot of road cycling, but I'm not hoping to make a career out of it. Like it's a hobby, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like there's this weird complex within karting that it's like nobody wants to admit that they're not the second coming of Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, that's true. I generally tell people when I'm on the track, the safest place is probably in the pits. So I'm not the best driver at it. My kid tears me up every time, but it's good memories, and it's a lot of fun to be out there and stuff. So
it also sounds like you work with a lot younger group than I do. And the thing that I've noticed with my group that's funny is that the people that I'm working with for the most part are people who it's the exact age where we see a fall off in competition karting. Competition karting, you see, a ton of 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. And then as soon as the kid goes to college, all of a sudden karting stops. I have a bunch of people who are, college, graduate school. I've got, people who own their own businesses and just want to, use karting as a way to get away from their family, get away from their kids. So it's, there really is something for everybody. And it doesn't matter if you do want to learn to work on stuff or you don't want to learn to work on stuff. I mean, I'm happy teaching anybody how to do anything they want to do. I just look at it as my space within Karts is that, I want to just kind of be somebody's guide to it and show them how to go ahead and enjoy it for whatever it is they want to do. If somebody wants to go racing, referring them to somebody like, Steve or any of the teams we work with down here is realistically the best thing I can do for them if that's their ambition. But if I go ahead and refer somebody to a shop that functions as a team and they really just want to go ahead and get out and have fun with their family or bring some friends out to the track, that doesn't really help them.
Yeah, understood. We've looked at, the cost to really, and the time too, to really get to a competitive level is, I don't think something a lot of families can withstand. And so it's, but we've met the flip side. We've met a couple of families who have gone all in and spent piles of money on the latest and greatest and trailer and new truck to pull it with, and then kids into it for 6 months and then everything's for sale.
Yeah.
You know, so
No, I think there's a bit of misunderstanding even when it comes to the racing side of stuff. I think in the last, 10 to 15 years, the way that the racing side of things has evolved, teams are more teams 15 years ago were more of shops. And, teams weren't charging people for pit space and tuning and all that stuff. And I think now things have changed to where, the shops are now teams. And there's a lot of people who I think, for yourself and your son, if you're mechanically savvy and you're interested in what you're doing, I think you guys could go to a race and really, do just fine, be competitive. And, it might take some effort and some time, but that drive, that ambition, the ability to go ahead and think through problems is really what it takes to begin to excel in any sort of competitive field. But I think we've gone ahead as the racing side of the sport and made things look so much more expensive than they actually have to be, with fancy tents and data acquisition and stuff like that.
So I can give you some insight onto how it impacts the series, if that helps.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So karting has, so we're in a quandary a little bit. So we're a regional series. So in my mind, we're the sort of series that you want the local guys to run at. You want the teams to stay here. And actually some of the teams, like the big teams, Ron White, Gary, and those guys, they've realized that the big travel thing doesn't actually help them that much in business. It costs them so much money. Like Ron White now, he can survive just pretty much by running our series, by running test days. We're in a little bit of a difficult situation at Sonoma because we don't get to control the track. So, there's a lot less open test days than we used to have, which is a problem. Hopefully we'll get that resolved. But, the teams like Ron, we run once a month, which I feel is kind of do 8 races, which I think is, doable for most people. You can go test in between. And so the teams can actually, like Ron has 15, 20 people at one of our events, from kids to 60-year-old guys running shifter carts. So, it builds a good opportunity for him to get a core group of people that want to race. The thing that's changed a lot in racing, because again, it is racing. And racing used to be a combination of recreational drivers and guys who aspire to be race drivers, or whatever you want to call it. So, and even when I started and when I was first here running at Sonoma, there was a lot more father and son teams, or father and daughter, mother and son, whatever it was. They would go out, buy their own cart, they'd bring the pickup truck to the track, and they'd run, and they would have a great time, and everything would they would whether it was for their kid or even like guys would buy their own cart, middle-aged guys, like you say, that have finished college now, they, want to go and have some fun. So they buy a go-kart, they put it in the back of the truck, and they come to the race on the weekend. So we used to, in the probably, maybe 7-8 years ago, that was the bulk of our races were people like that. What happened is, as the teams came in, and as you say, the level of competition became tougher. There was more tuning, more data, and all of a sudden, the guys that were there just having fun, it wasn't as much fun anymore, because you're not going to win, basically. And unless you are happy enough to sort of be running around the back of the pack, then all those people decided, well, I can't go to that race, because if I'm not running with one of the big teams, I'm not going to be competitive. I'm going to get run over. And they stopped coming. So it's really hard to figure out a way to accommodate, from my standpoint, how do I accommodate the teams that want to be there with the people who aspire to be competitive, and then also accommodate people like Daniel who want to come and have fun, because you want them there, you want them to enjoy the experience. So, I've often thought, how do we get the father and son back? Like, how do we show that they can come to the event, they can have a good time. They may not win, but it's not necessarily about winning. It's about learning. It's about driving. It's about the experience of the day. So, one of the things I thought about last year is do we set up an area in our paddock where you try to accommodate those people, put everybody in that one location, and they can get to know each other, they can barbecue, they can hang out, and maybe whether it's us or we try to put maybe like I thought about maybe hiring a technical advisor that can be there at our expense and help those people. Like say, hey, if you're having a problem, this is the tire pressure you should be running. If you're having a problem with the carburetor, try this jetting. Because that's a lot of the people are fearful that they think the cars are too complicated. They can't figure out how to run them, tune them, whatever. And as you said, it's not rocket science. Honestly, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a good car, and you just put the right gear on it, and you run it properly. It's gonna do okay. So we have the same issue. Like, how do we attract those people back? You need them because if you're looking like everybody, you're trying to have decent numbers to make it a good experience for everybody. So I've sort of been open to try and get feedback from people on how do we get that group back. The other problem that you run into is, and particularly now in the I think COVID related times, and you are sort of on that subject, Ryan, is that the teams can only handle so many drivers. I mean, they get maxed out. If they've got 5, 6, 10 drivers under their tent, they can't find mechanics. They can't find data support. They can't take care of those people. So as a series, it's great to have teams there, but they have a limited capacity. So to build our series and make our series strong, we either have to find more teams because, otherwise you're capped at whatever it is, if it's 80 or 100 races, that's you're stuck because you've got no other way to service any more people. So from my perspective, there's two ways to keep the series growing. You either have to get more teams in, and locally, I think we already have most of the teams coming to the race. And Absolutely. As you said, it's not financially viable for teams to travel to a regional series. So again, it comes back to the same thing. The most important thing for us is to find a way to accommodate the recreational karters or the people that want to take care of the kart themselves, and find a way to make that experience good for them, either by being competitive or getting support or having other people that they can enjoy the day with. And like, it's not necessarily about maybe the on-track experience, but maybe the off-track experience. So I think, Jason, you and I have had that conversation, but it's something for sure, going into the season that's probably the most pressing question or situation that I feel we need to address. As a promoter, that's probably the most important thing. That if we can find a way to make that improve that situation, then the series will be stronger and will attract more people to the karting world. Because again, we're limiting, like you say, you go to that coffee and donuts event, you get a lot of people who have interest, but then how do you actually get them involved? How do they buy the kart? How do they feel they can go to the track? How can they actually then fulfill that desire to get on track? And right now it's very, very hard to do.
If I can respond to that, I think there's a couple of things. Just, we kind of have, 3 different representatives from different kind of ends of the call it the flow chart of karting. You have Dan, who's dealing with people in their first steps into the sport when, maybe they want to do this recreationally, maybe they have further aspirations. But I think right now where the sport struggles is the fact that there's not enough opportunity for people to get into karting at a recreational level, to be able to feel comfortable going up to a more competitive level. I think what you said about the, people feel like they need to have a team, they feel like they need to do this stuff. When I got into karting, all these teams were just shops that happened to be helping customers. They weren't really running in an orchestrated, manner. And you had a lot of people who were racing out of the back of a pickup truck, father-son teams, stuff like that. But I think what we need to figure out is, how do you make those types of customers feel welcome? I mean, it's one thing to go ahead and say, the level of professionalism in local karting is great because it looks good, it's professional, it's going to attract a higher end clientele. But at the other end, you're also discouraging the more blue collar client who's going to show up and run and race with his pickup truck. So there needs to be some level of education between, that initial interest and deciding to go to a race where people can actually come to terms with what it is they're working on. I mean, there's so many people in the sport who you ask them, how do you bleed brakes? How does a clutch work? How does
what is a clutch?
Carburetor work? I mean, there's all these very basic things, like Steve said, none of this is rocket science, but we put everything in such a fancy wrapper that our customers assume it must be. And like Steve said, where, the teams realistically have a cap of how many people they can deal with. But the only way to go ahead and kind of fill the gap and go ahead and provide more people that are knowledgeable to be able to work with the teams is to find a way to, expand the sport's participation. And I think the healthiest way to go about that is building from the very, very base, which is with guys like Dan. Down here in Southern California, we have a similar situation to Sonoma with regards to limited track time. Cal Speed is, 90% of karting down here nowadays because Adams is doing a lot of drifting stuff. The track's a little bit rougher. And then you have Apex, which has a ton of supermoto on it. So, 80, 90% of our track days are done at Cal Speed, but they're only open on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you look at their calendar, if you try and go ahead and go out on a Saturday, if it's anywhere between the second week of February and the third week of November, you can't go out on a Saturday. So if we look at the sport from a perspective, if you're going to spend, let's say we'll call it $5,000. If you're going to spend $5,000 on either a go-kart or you're going to spend $5,000 on a mountain bike or a jet ski, what are you going to go ahead and get the most ability to use? Is it a go-kart that you have to go ahead and drive an hour, 2 hours to get to a track, and you can only go out, on Sundays, which Sundays are rough for a lot of people who have responsibilities on Monday. And going out on a Wednesday or a Friday, it's a work day. I mean, it makes it doubly expensive when you're trying to ask somebody not only to go out and spend money to partake in their hobby, but also to forego the money they would have made that day working. So
yeah, and another thing I've seen too, and I know Steve and Ryan, you've seen it as well. You guys have been around for a long time. Walk-in kart shops, like a real walk-in kart shop.
Getting harder and harder to come by.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a Monday through Friday walk-in kart shop, and it's difficult when the guy that just picks up a brand new to him, it doesn't matter what it is, a used cart, calls that local kart shop, and they're either appointment only, they're out of town doing race support, etc. It makes it very hard for that recreational guy. It's like, well, where do I go? And then you say, well, why isn't there more kart shops that are open?
Well, and that I think is somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we used to have more walk-in kart shops, but now Ron can go ahead and exist solely on his calendar alone. He has enough drivers. He has enough demand, the practice days in between. As a business, you go ahead and look at it and say, my overhead is X amount. So this is the nut I've got to crack every single month. And if I go ahead and know that I'm going to have 10 drivers going to 8 races a year, that's 80 invoices. I know I'm going to charge them X amount for pit support, tires, fuel, maybe a mechanic, and some transport while we're at it. That becomes the sane way to run your business. Whereas, it's the sane way, but it might not be the long-term smartest way, because when you're busy doing that, you forego the ability to go ahead and grow the business organically outside of that box of those races. So I think a lot of that kind of mom and pop type of kart shop disappeared because a lot of those people's customers went online.
I think
Absolutely.
what also impacted that was internet, because if you had, honestly, like if we had essentially a walk-in kart shop at Sonoma, and I shut it down. I mean, it just became
Doesn't make
financially
sense.
it wasn't viable, because either you had to carry enough inventory so somebody could walk in and buy something, but then you're all of a sudden you're competing against Fast Tech and all the online guys who are working at and a lot of the online guys they work out of the garage, they've got no overhead, they're selling
Hey, that's
chassis,
me.
engines, parts. What's that? Somebody like
That's
Jason
me.
at a
No,
discounted
Jason's the
price.
eBay bottom feed.
Yeah, and so that in some regard, that's kind of the way of the
Exhibit
world,
A.
right? It's Amazon has taken over the karting shops. I think the last karting shop that, and I was Donald Durbin when he had Cambrian in San Jose, which was a walk-in, but it wasn't just cars. They had bikes and scooters and things like that. But
Yeah.
and I don't know if they still even have that shop at San Jose. I don't think so, right?
Not in San Jose. They
He's still got his
moved
shop
it out
at
to
the track.
Rancho Cordova.
Right, at Prairie City, right? So
Correct.
that's pretty the only walk-in kart shop. I don't know about who else is around. I mean, I don't know if anybody else is around with actually a shop, at least in Northern California, that I'm aware of. So,
No, I think this might be a good segue to somebody else who Jason said may be coming on, but I think that what Steve said about this is kind of the way of the world. It's the Amazonification. And how are other industries adapting to this, and is karting doing it? And are we holding up our end of the bargain? Where now you look at the way e-commerce has evolved, you have more digital content, but other industries, typically the manufacturers, are going ahead and sponsoring digital content and helping educate people and doing stuff like that. But largely in karting, the manufacturers don't do anything other than provide equipment and maybe go ahead and put money towards running a series to make sure that their equipment has make sure their horse has a track. But for the most part, there's not a lot of karting content being produced in the US that's relevant to the people who are trying to get into it. I mean, I think Jason, I mean, in the fact we're having this conversation, with Norcal Karters, I think is an excellent step forward. But at the same point, it's also a risky proposition for somebody to say, I'm going to make a full-time YouTube channel devoted to making karting accessible. Well, how in the fuck are you going to pay for that?
Yeah.
I think, one of the things that happens, and, like in our series, right, we're doing live streaming and what have you to try and promote it, try and help bring value to it. But probably if you think about it again, like, if you're getting into karting, your best value is not my series or any of the big series. Your best value is still going to be the kart club. It's
Yes.
Davis Kart Club, Dixon Kart Club, Prairie City, Stockton. So the problem seems to be that those tracks, they don't have the wherewithal. Again, I think the membership has diminished a little bit, but they somehow, if you're going to get new people in, for sure your best value as a new racer is to go to Dixon or Davis or whichever club it is, because you join up for $300 a year. You can go and test there for $10 a day or nothing or whatever it may be. It's so open. Cheap. It's open almost every day, except at Dixon when the no semi bugs come and chew you up. But there's no better value than joining one of those clubs, getting a membership. And you get a key to the gate. You can go in almost any day of the week and drive the kart track. And we've got, 5 tracks in Northern California that operate like that. So,
we have nothing in Southern California like that.
And so it's a huge
We're
resource.
spoiled.
But the problem is, it's like anything. It's the politics, right? They all battle against each other. They don't work with each other very well. And for years, everybody said, okay, well, how do you get everyone to work together? Well, you can. You can't get them to work on schedules together. You've got KPX. There's another local series that goes to visit these tracks. Somehow, and Jason's probably the guy, because promoting the clubs and the value in the clubs to new racers is probably the best growth of the sport. And then if those people get in there at a club level, they don't spend all their budget is fairly small. they can have fun. The competition level is a little bit lower, and then if they want to continue on, then they can they can reach out to a regional race, or they can come to our race, or they can do whatever. But I think, I always, people think that we want to see the, as a series, that we'd like to see the clubs go away. And that's far from the truth, because I think without the clubs, you'll never get growth in the industry. So finding a way to support those clubs, whether it's through, they need to step up on their digital promotion or whatever it may be. That to me is probably the key for, getting new people into the sport. I mean, it's by far, it's affordable, it's fun. And, there's so many tracks, at least in our area, that it's never going to be more than an hour away from where you live.
And that's kind of an interesting thing that kind of Ryan hinted at. I had the advantage when I was at Sweet Tech. I had all the analytics for the YouTube stuff, and because I was doing the videos, so I had full access.
An engine builders kill the sport too, by the way, Jason, because
right.
They price out the engines, and if you don't have a Sweet Tech, you don't win. So just
so here's the other side
I
of it.
spent a lot of time telling people that they didn't need a Sweet Tech to win, because I ran his competitor shit.
Yes, and that never won. No, but it's with racing. What happens is I'm all of a sudden getting an echo. Yeah. So let's just say Sweet Tech, because that's where I worked. You get rid of the Sweet Techs and say, oh, no engine builders. So someone like Rainey, what does he do? He goes, hey, I'm available as a private white label engine builder for one team. Now, if Sweet Tech's no longer out there, that one team has access to that engine builder. And that's racing. I mean, that's just part of it. But, working there and looking at the analytics. What's that?
I said that's happening more at a national level now, because if you look at RPG, they have a in-house engine builder that does not work with anybody outside.
You can't get one of their engines unless you're under the tent. Correct. Yeah. And looking at the YouTube analytics, it's like I got the first videos I did is I try to produce them, make them really nice, etc. And I started looking at analytics. It's like, man, they're not very good. And then I would do some quick, carburetor videos that happen to cross over to motocross stuff, and that stuff was off the charts.
Yep.
And I got to a point, it's like, you know what? I still need to get the information out there, but I can't spend 8 hours editing, doing this, doing that, when it has 800 views. Then I do a key in carburetor video, and it gets 80,000 views. And that's just karting. It's like, and Ryan said it earlier, who pays for it? And it's a shame. It's really a shame it's that way, because it's such a great sport. I think, go ahead.
If we go back to the end who pays for it part, it comes full circle to Steve's point earlier. A lot of the teams, there's a shortage of people who can really support the growth of the industry just to work within the teams. The teams run out of mechanics. They run out of people who can do data. The hard part is what we pay mechanics, what we pay data guys, stuff like that is it's side hustle money. It's not something that people can go ahead and say, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I do data analysis for kart racing, or oh, I'm a kart mechanic. I mean, it's something that people are doing for cash on the side, or they're getting paid. The guys who are doing it a lot, they're going to get a 1099. Okay, but it's not something that is a matured industry. And one problem I ran into when we were running a race team and we were doing all of this was just that I didn't feel like I could ever get to a point. I didn't know how many drivers do I need to have to where I can go ahead and justify having one person who just handles my invoicing and collections. How many drivers do I need to get to where I have one person who just does data analysis? The business model doesn't scale because it takes so much effort and so much blood, sweat, and tears to get it to a point where it makes realistic money to pay one person. And I mean, we're in a very expensive state to live in. There's no doubt about that. But if we want these people to help grow the sport, to be able to help grow these businesses, unfortunately, we have to find a way who pays for it. And if we go ahead and start charging, commensurate to what would do that, we're back to the beginning of the argument, which is we've started making this too expensive to attract new people.
Yeah, which is a great reason why I had Daniel. Hey, Daniel, did we lose Silvio?
Yeah, he's floating around here somewhere.
Okay, because I wanted it. We haven't talked to him at all, and I know he was floating in the background.
Well, let me snack him. Let me go snack him. I'm back.
Yeah, go track him down. And I think it's important, these recreational guys, like I take that responsibility. I should be highlighting those recreational guys, because
I think promoting
that recreational guy is the one that is going to say, hey, let's go to the track together. Go drive my go-kart.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are helping bringing people in.
And that's where I see a lot of growth where, within our recreational stuff, it's largely just come from, meeting people at the track and then them calling their buddies and then bringing their buddy to the track. And then, we throw them in a cart for a session. Don't charge them anything to go do one session. But, it's just the old drug dealer model. Your first hit's free. And after that, the day pretty much always ends with, hey, can I get your cell phone number? We want to try and put together maybe a used package, something, come out with you guys. We had a great time today. And then from there on out, they're just a part of the crew.
Yeah.
So Ryan, we actually, our experience has been like Prairie City, for example. And while we were there, it was our first time there. To Donald's credit, he came out, gave the kart a whole look over, a couple suggestions he gave to us. Got him on the grid and stuff, and ran some laps, but gave us a little technical stuff we could do with the kart. And so that whole experience was by far the best one we've ever had at a track. And because a lot of times Stockton will show up and there's nobody there. It might just be us.
Yeah.
There's been a few other occasions where there's other people and we'll exchange numbers and stuff. If you want to hit some laps, give me a text, I'll meet you. Same thing at Dixon. Johnny Cope's super good at Dixon. He was helpful. He did the same thing Donald did, came out and gave it a look over and had a couple of suggestions also and stuff. So, new being into the sport, it kind of enticed us like, okay, these people, at least they care about what we're doing. They met us they actually came to our pit and before we even got the kart unloaded and stuff. And so that was super good for us because I was new to it also and I didn't know what to expect. And at the time we only had his kart. And so that really kind of got the wheel spinning. And then as we met more people and learned like, okay, I don't have to, because like you guys were talking about earlier, there's no walk-in kart shop. And so how I met Jason was his online stuff. And then I met him. I met another guy, Dennis, in Riverbank. Then I met, another guy. And so, Stu down in Stu Hayner or something like that down in
Stu at MDG. So, I see him.
Yeah. And so I'll just call and talk to him. I mean, I'm not shy. I'll say, hey, this is what I'm working on. I got this problem. What do you think? And they walk me through stuff. And if I buy parts from them, I get parts from them, and stuff works. So it's been pretty good for us. So I don't have too many complaints going into it. Although the track days sometimes being closed sucks, but that just is what it is. We try to work around that, but anyhow, it's been great for us. This is our little driver here with Silvio. So
Silvio, when you're in the kart, what's your favorite part about the kart?
Just hammering
it. Just hammering it?
Yes.
Just hammering it?
Well, it took him a little bit to figure out what the race line was, and we had a few people help him to knock his track times down, and he likes the noise. He likes spinning it up. He runs a little two-stroke and likes the smell and all that stuff. So it was a little different experience for him getting in that, coming off of quads but he took to it pretty quick and stuff. And then he finally got in some traffic and did pretty good with that. Got banged up a little bit a couple times, but car was fine. He was okay. Nobody got hurt, and so we went home and cleaned everything up and hit it again. So
Silvio, how's a comparison from a quad to a kart for you?
A cart is inside it. It feels more faster, and it's also very, very, very low to the ground. But driving a quad, you're more higher, and it's made for off-road instead.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're
That's
running
true.
a mini Swift? Is that what you're running, Silvio?
No, he's running a Comer 80, and so
Coma 80? Oh, okay.
we just threw a pipe on it for the heck of it. We found a
Yeah.
pipe online and said, "Hell with it. We'll throw a pipe on it and see what happens." And
Buy that from Jason.
I didn't have the header.
yeah. But you know what? It's I don't want to say he's super kind to it, but it's held together, has great compression, and it spins up just fine. So he runs pretty hard with it. So it makes it a lot of fun.
They were good little motors. They're fun. They were fun. Like I think Christian, my son, I think the first kart he was running was a Coma. When we were running at Sonoma, he was in a Coma. So those were fun little motors.
Yeah, I think any junior driver that's my age or older, I think they went through the Comer ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ryan, you probably were on Comer stuff, right?
No comment. I don't want to talk about
You don't want to age yourself?
I don't have nearly as fond of experience.
So Ryan, were you racing or were you recreating?
No, I was racing, and it was the worst parody out of any class. We would show up to an IKF race with 40 drivers, and I'll never forget a friend of mine blew up his motor, and then one of the more well-to-do drivers came over and gave him one of his backup engines. Next thing you know, we finish up qualifying, and come to find out, he wound up starting like third or second or something. Prior to that, he was maybe 20th. And at that point, I'm just like, this is just dumb. I wanted nothing to do with it. My favorite cadet engine class was the 60cc shifters and the HPV, which is now known as the KPV. Those were the two I always look forward to. The Comer was the first one I wanted out of, and then I'll probably piss people off. I hated Yamahas. I'll never forget the first time I drove a Yamaha. I was probably 9 years old. I pulled into the pits, looked at my dad, and said, "Dad, it makes a lot of noise, but it's not going anywhere." So, yeah.
Looks like Andy's chiming in. He said parody, not parody.
Yeah. I wish somebody just made an eye hook that you could put right in the spark plug hole for any of those things. Oh my god. Sorry, I have PTSD from racing Comers, I guess.
Well, that took a spin or the wrong turn.
Yeah. Well, our experience has been good. We've he runs it hard. It hasn't grenaded yet, and the nice part is that grenades it don't cost a whole lot to replace it. So
no, and those engines, the only thing you're going to have fail is a clutch, and as long as you have the tool to put the springs back on the shoes, yeah. It's
I didn't at Ryan. I didn't at first though. And those things were a pain in the ass to get those springs on without the tool. Yeah.
You mean you did it without it? I'm impressed.
I did it without it. Yeah.
You're better than I am.
I
Congratulations.
didn't tell you the tool.
I think I used if I remember right. God, I don't remember if I used a PVC. I used something to get it apart, and it wasn't fun, and it took a little bit.
When I had first taken over the kart shop from my dad, my dad's background is CNC machining, and we also have that business as well. But I was at the kart shop full time, and I was basically thrown right at it. I had a father and a son come in with a Comer 80 with a busted clutch, and I had never been working on my own stuff at that point, but I knew how to replace clutch springs. So I started trying to do it without that tool. And I think I spent 2 or 3 hours until finally I call my dad's cell phone and I'm just like, okay, what the hell is the trick for this? I spent 2 hours wearing these stupid springs. There has to be some way of doing this. And he's like, oh yeah, go grab the tool for it. It's in the toolbox. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's funny because at the time I didn't even know there was a tool. And one of the times we were trackside with a busted spring. So I popped it out and I did it on the side of the track. And yeah, it sucked, but I only had to do one. And then when I came back, I replaced all of them. Yeah, it was. Like I say, it's there's some words that go through your head that aren't pleasant when you're doing it, but you got your kid looking at you like somehow I'm getting this damn thing done, and it gets done. So
if only there was a video.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only there was. Yeah. Yeah. So anyhow,
so Silvio, what's your favorite NorCal track?
What's your favorite track?
I think it's Prairie City.
Yeah, Prairie City.
Prairie City?
Go ahead, tell them. Prairie City.
Yeah. Prairie City, yeah.
Yeah, Prairie City.
Yeah, why?
Because of the elevation change in it. It's cool.
Oh, you like going through the snake pit and then coming down over the hill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, that is kind of neat. Some of the other tracks don't have that, so it's just a nice track. It's a bigger track than what we're used to, so it's nice too. Right?
Yeah. I mean, every track has its unique characteristic to it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. We're looking for. We haven't been to Blue Max yet, so we're hoping to make it out there soon and give that a run. So we got to look at it at the swap meet, and we're thinking about bringing the cart, but it was so foggy. We're like, track's gonna be wet and foggy, and by 11:30 it was beautiful. It was like,
It was a beautiful day out there. If you have a chance, run it backwards. Blue Max is a lot of fun backwards.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of left-hand turns the regular way.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. But the other way looked cool too. So that's a neat little setup they got there. So,
yeah, all the tracks. I mean, like Ryan's sitting here going, "You guys have 5 tracks in 2 hours." It's like we're so spoiled. I mean, it just if someone's kind of listening in and you're not familiar with what we're talking about, go to norcalkarters.com and you can click on the link for all the local tracks. But we have such a good density of tracks in the area.
There are some good tracks. Dixon we like too. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's not horrible. And stop and grab some lunch on the way back. And we usually, my wife will pack like beef jerky and treats and snacks and all that and Gatorade. And then on the way back, we'll grab something to eat. And they're usually, the kid will usually crash out on the way back because it's, like I was telling a lot of people at the Euro Sunday, I think what a lot of people don't realize is how much it takes out of you just mentally and physically, even 15 minutes drive time on a track. It'll wind you down pretty quick. And so because some of the people were talking about Prairie City, and I was like, yeah, you can do the arrive and drive there and stuff, and that'll get you, I think, a 15-minute session or whatever. And stuff, and they're like, "Oh, 15 minutes? No, if it was all day, maybe." And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Yeah, but if you go there, you will understand. Yeah, so it's that's one of the first things we learned driving this. When we started driving was how much it takes out of you driving them. It's not only do you get beat up a little bit, but it will drain you, and it'll drain you quick. And so. We'll run 15 minutes and then pull off and take a break and check the cart, run through stuff, have some snacks, and then go back out, a little while later and stuff. So it's and that way it's different than riding quads and stuff too, because those you can bang on them for a long time and you're still good. But yeah, the karts they're different machines. They really are, and so they're really unique from some other stuff we've driven in that way.
Yeah, and you and I were talking about that earlier. It's like we're, the new guy that has motorsports backgrounds or motocross or whatever it is. It's like, sometimes they got to check the ego a little bit and educate themselves before hopping in a kart, because
they do. Like I was telling you, we've been out to the track before, and it's not like, believe me, it's not like we're experts. We respect the machines. We know what they can do, and we've kind of learned what we can do also. And then you try to push the limit a little bit, but we've been out there where there's, a guy will show up with a cart and is like, oh, I just bought the shifter and I used to run this and dirt track and all these other, he's like, there's one guy we call the world champion, because it seemed like every story he told, he had a world championship that he had and stuff. And but they definitely get that invincibility, just based on their background, I guess, where they're definitely Superman type syndrome, and they get on a track and they can hardly keep the thing on the ground or keep it straight, and it's hard to drive with those people on the track too. So we kind of, we'll kind of let them do their thing, and then we'll go out. But they spun and gone off track and slid into the barriers and stuff, and then they come out and they'll blame it on the kart and stuff. And I think a lot of it is, it's really checking your ego, because like, I'll tell you right now, if I crash, it's on me. I've done it before, probably will do it again. But they're getting less.
It doesn't
and less.
matter how good you get. You're
Yeah. Well, you can always tell when you're talking to someone that is going to jump in head first into a go-kart that's never driven, because they want the 250 shifter.
Oh God.
Yeah.
The PTSD is coming back. I want a 250. 125 is not enough.
That's right. They want the 250.
Yeah. Or I guess the modern version is now they want a 450.
Oh, if you go 4-stroke, yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger's better.
There's nothing more satisfying than taking one of the guys who comes from either some other sport or something and shows up to the track and wants to tell you about how good a shape he's in and how this won't be a problem at all. And then you send him out for a 10-minute session and he comes back and it looks like somebody just beat the crap out of him. Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of one of the advantages of being out at Sonoma. And, years ago, there was, I can't remember which NASCAR guy it was. He's a bigger guy. It might have been Ryan Newman, and he was doing laps around Sonoma. And, I mean, NASCAR, that's what, the top tier of oval racing. This guy gets out of the go-kart, and he could barely speak. He was, like, trying to lean on the steering wheel. And it's just... I kind of laughed, and then at the same time I was thinking, wow, this really is pretty physical, because I personally don't have any car experience. And here's a guy that's racing at the top level in NASCAR, could barely get out of the kart after 10, 15 laps. It's like, it really puts in perspective of how physical the karts are and what a great training ground it is.
Well, I think Steve can probably speak to it even better than all of us, because he sees people get in and out of all sorts of different cars.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And it comes back to the fact that, yes, it is very physical, but a lot of it is going to be how familiar with that particular type of physicality are you? I mean, if you take somebody out of a kart and put them into a higher level formula car, watch them try and get on the brakes and see how stable they are. Or
I mean, I get some pretty good perspective, because obviously we've run, karts for a long time, Atlantic cars, Daytona, sports cars, pretty much the gamut. And a lot of it's actually pretty interesting, because you can take a guy that's a great athlete, like a cyclist, whatever, and you put him in a go-kart, he's going to last 5 laps. Done. I mean, but some of it is because mentally, like Dan says, draining mentally, but a lot of it's sort of a muscle memory thing, because what amazes me is you'll watch, let's say the junior kids in, in 125 junior or whatever, and, they got, their arms are this big, and they're out there and they'll run a 20 lap main, and they won't fatigue and they won't fall off. Their pace is good. Their neck muscles, everything else is attuned to those particular forces. And, so it's not necessarily about, I think, the actual physical strength of the karters. It's a little bit more about muscle memory and what you develop, the type of strength, and about relaxing and not hanging onto the steering wheel and everything else. And same in race cars. I mean, you'll take, just recently, my nephew Dane runs, he drives sports prototypes. He drives DPI and IMSA, and he just got he's been running those for a few years, which are really high downforce, really high G race cars. And he did a IndyCar test at Sebring about 3 weeks ago with Penske, and the lateral G was really no issue for him. But what was very difficult was the IndyCar has such raw acceleration. His neck muscles, the fore and aft forces were completely different to what he'd been used to in the sports car, and so he had to basically put some padding behind his head and adapt to that. So like any sport, I think your body has to adjust to the type of forces. And it's not necessarily about, brute strength. It's about the muscle memory. It's about adapting to it. But again, the loads are, for a person that's never driven one, you can't explain to somebody, what kind of, the amount of G-force that you have, the strength in your arms and everything else that you need to develop to be competitive, or even be able to run, 15 laps in a go-kart at Davis or Dixon or somewhere like that. The average person, it's never going to happen. They might think they can do it, but they'll never be able to do it. And it's funny because you hear it all the time. Oh, that looks like fun, man. I'd love to do that. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'd love
me.
to see you do it, but I don't think it's going to be quite that easy, So.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it just comes back to respecting the fact that these different disciplines have their own challenges, and you can't just look at something and say, "Oh yeah, that looks like fun. I'll go do that."
Yeah,
it's like you got to put your time in.
Yeah. Well, it's like you talked about with the cycling. I mean, you can get pretty good at that, but again, like I'd love to go on a mountain bike ride. Well, I'd probably last about half a mile and be done, right? I mean, your body can't do it, let alone can run where the elite athletes who ride, the amount of stamina and physique that they have. So again, I think every person thinks, I could ride a bicycle, I could go and do that. Well, no, I don't think you can.
Well, Steve, since we have you up on the big screen right now, why don't you give us a little bit of primer for the season coming up, and we're going to get to a point where we're going to wrap up the show a little bit. So what's going on with Rock Sonoma?
So Rock Sonoma, obviously we've got our first race coming up here in March, and it's a week before Andy's Challenge in America race. So I believe we'll have a significant amount of entries. A lot of guys traveling in from LA and everywhere else, and from Phoenix for our race as a precursor to Andy's race. Andy, if you're listening, we're there for you.
He's on the chat line.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in the comments.
Probably the biggest thing, actually, and Andy, Andy will be listening, but, I'm getting hammered pretty hard right now as to whether we're going to allow KAs in our series or not. And as I've sort of been telling everybody, we believe we'll be running KAs. Andy is running KAs in this series, and we try to stay on the same rule package as Andy. And so our goal is to allow them. What I put out a little tweet tonight. Essentially, we get a lot of support from Rock. They help sponsor our series, and the Rock engine has been really, really competitive lately, particularly in Andy's series. You don't need to run a KA to be competitive, but we also have a lot of people here locally that run the KA. So obviously for ours, it would be great to have them involved. But, we're waiting honestly for Rock Rock and Vortex just to give us a blessing that, okay, we can go ahead and allow the KAs to run. So I've told people that I'm sort of waiting for that blessing because, without the support of Rock and Vortex, it's incredibly expensive to run the series at Sonoma. What we pay for track fees, our ambulance fees, our track workers. So without sponsorship, and Rock is a big part of sponsorship, we would have to jack our entry fees up to an unaffordable rate. So what I said to people tonight is it would be great to see you here running the KA, but in all honesty, I would love you to go out there and buy a VLR and swap and support the VLR and support the people that are sponsoring our series. So that's a little aside to it, but it's something that I sort of feel when you talk about the cost of racing, one of the things that's important to me is we have sponsors and we have people that help put our series on. And as I said, the cost of the racing at Sonoma is incredibly expensive. So, and we've kept our entry fees, I think, at the same price point now for like the last 7 years. And that's because we've got sponsors helping cover the cost. So, just a little aside from me is, if people support our sponsors, that keeps their costs down and helps grow the series. I see Ashley. Ashley will be back doing our registration. I know she's excited for that. We'll have the same core group of people back helping manage the series. Bill will be back taking care of the day-to-day running of the series. There's been, and as with COVID right now, everywhere in the world, there's a shortage of a lot of product. And one of the big shortages people are suffering through is tires. We run Michelin's on our IMSA program, and we run Pirelli's on our SRO program. We can't get tires. We got emails today from Michelin. Basically, we have an allotment of tires that we get for testing, which is basically like one set. So we've got, no tires to go testing before Sebring or our next event at Sonoma for our race team. And we're a little bit in the same situation with the tires for Rock. Levanto, the tire, that, like everybody, they're struggling to get product out and shipped to the States. So our first race, I know Andy has tires for Challenge Americas at Phoenix. He has tires for Sonoma. We have tires for Sonoma. But one of the problems we've got is tires for testing. So
I sell used tires.
Yeah, used
tires.
That's where all the tires out in front of my race shop go. Is to you to sell.
That's right.
Yeah. So again, it's a challenge. I mean, we've got some challenges. So we're gonna basically be forced into limiting the amount of tires everybody can get at that first race. I mean, we have enough essentially to give everybody the one set of tires they need for the race day. And like Andy is doing, and like we're going to do, people are going to need to bring and hang on to the used tires for the test days for practice because there just is no inventory in the world right now. So that's one of the challenges we face with our series coming up here for the first race. Other than that, I mean, honestly, I believe that we're going to do we are going to do our 2021 awards ceremony on the Saturday. So we have the track Saturday and Sunday, open practice on Saturday. We'll end Saturday probably just a little bit early, and then we're going to set up a presentation at we have a shop at Sonoma, which is our Radical Race Car shop, and we're going to give away the 2021 Series Championship Awards, trophies, the photos and what have you that we do for everybody. And the plan is to live stream that event. So everybody that wins the championship will get to, they can have their friends watch them live streaming. They can chat a little bit, thank their sponsors, their parents, everything else. So that's planned for the Saturday of our event at the end of the day. Race format will essentially be the same, won't be changed as far as the way the schedule runs on Sunday. We are hoping to announce within the next couple of weeks our event in September. I believe it's September, will be a bigger event. It's probably going to be a 3-day event. There'll be a hopefully to announce a large promotion. It'll be in conjunction with a national promotion. So that will be, I think, a huge event at Sonoma, probably the biggest event of the year. It'll be promoted nationally, and we hope that that'll be something that not only the local racers then will be able to race against people from across the country, but there'll be a significant amount of promotion, prize money, other awards for other year-end events and things like that in the September race.
Very cool. And then where can people find information for your series?
Go to Rock Sonoma.
Rock
Or
Sonoma.
actually, Norcal
SanzaruKarting.com.
No, just go to Norcal Karters. It links to everything.
Yeah, that's true too. Norcal Karters.
Yeah, Norcal Karters, yeah.
Click on the calendar. We have your series on the calendar. We have Andy's Challenge of the America series on the calendar. It'll take you right to their websites. Man, you did a better plug than I did. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Steve.
All right, yeah, I'm going to. I got to fly back to Florida on Wednesday, so I get a whole day. We've got a lot of travel right now for all these events. So
the racing season is here.
The racing season is here. Yes, it begins. So, all right. Well, I appreciate it, and good luck to you, Daniel, and your son there.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
One of these days, maybe we'll see you at Sonoma. You can come and run a few laps around there.
That'd be fun. Yeah, I actually would like to do that.
Yeah, great. All right, Ryan, nice to meet you. I don't think I've ever met you before, but
yeah, no, I think I've
seen you at the track of some of these things. Like we're always passing people right at the track there. And Jason, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, what's going on?
I think you're doing our announcing again, aren't you?
All right, that guy's awesome.
Did I invite you back? Or not? I don't remember.
Not in writing, you haven't.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right.
We'll see you on March 19th for the first race at Rock Sonoma.
Well, you're also hosting. I don't think I told you, but we might as well do this live so you can't back out. But you'll be hosting the awards on Saturday evening as well.
Do I have to shave?
Well, I don't want you to wear that hat. Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Take care. Bye.
No problem. All right. Next up, Ryon Beachner.
Oh, great.
Two Wild Karting, Freem USA. Give us your final thoughts. Plug your company.
Yeah. I guess is the part where I should.
Real quick, what happened to the fire pit?
It's currently over here.
Okay. Mine dwindled out, so we need to use yours.
Away to try and stay out of shot.
All right. Ryon Beachner, Two Wild Karting / Freem USA, two separate entities.
Yes.
Go.
So, yeah, if anybody is, I guess I haven't really spoken much about it at all, but if anybody's in the market for custom driving suits, shoes, gloves, team wear for any of the race teams, or, you just want to have totally overkill work uniforms, we're happy to help you out.
My producer needs a polo shirt with Norcal Karters on it.
We could definitely make that happen.
Perfect.
Just let me know what your sizes are. We can make something work. freemracing.us or Freem USA will get you to us. If you have any questions, info@freemracing.us will go straight to me. I'm usually pretty responsive. We're happy to go ahead and throw together designs to, answer whatever questions we can to help get you guys outfitted and, as soon as possible with some good quality stuff.
So if you're in NorCal and you're familiar with GFC karting or Ron White Racing, Ryon Beachner is the supplier for both of those teams.
Yep. So GFC more and more. I'm trying to work on the guys over at Track Magic, but I've, to be honest, had my hands full this year with between Magic on the East Coast. GFC's stuff has been blowing up. More team orders from them, and also just local SoCal stuff, plus a few different larger car teams in the works as well. So it's been something where we're growing steadily, and the snowball has finally started to roll down the mountain, and that momentum is finally starting to pay off. So
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
absolutely.
And then we'll have. Go ahead.
Oh, and happy to come back or whatever if you guys would like.
Well, I appreciate you coming onto the show, knowing this was going to be a complete guinea pig experiment with the remote, mobile, etc. So I do appreciate that.
Oh, I mean, it's just talking about stuff. It's a good time. So
perfect. Ryon Beachner, Freem USA.
Good to meet you, Dan, as well.
Take care, Ryan.
Later, guys.
See you, man.
Thanks, Ryan. And Daniel, do we lose Silvio?
Yeah, he's split. He's hungry.
He's split. All right. Well, give yourself a plug. Talk about the Karts and Coffee, Euro Sunday.
Hey, yeah, whether you're watching it live or it's a restream that you're watching, third Sunday of every month in Modesto. I will get in touch with you so you can share where the location is. Traditionally, it's been in McHenry Village. That's changed. It was in Roseburg Square this last weekend, which is a really, really nice venue. It's kind of a boutique little strip mall, really pretty little area. And I'm hoping they keep it there. It just was a perfect location for it. But if you have carts, bring them. If you have kids or you just want to go walk around, if you have some interest in carts, you can see carts, and then you can see all the cars. There's everything from Ferraris, Lambos, Porsches, a lot of JDM, BMWs, some stuff heavily modified, some stock, everything in between. It's just a really nice time. 8 a.m. to 10:30. This last one went a little long. Everybody started splitting off around 11:30. So it's just a really nice time with family or your significant other. It's a good time to come out to. So we're hoping to draw some more support, bringing some more carts out there. We had a small group this last weekend, so we're hoping to grow that and get some more exposure, and hopefully get some more kids and some more folks on the track to keep some of these tracks alive, and so we have places to go run.
That's right. That's a great plug for the local tracks.
Yeah, we think so. Silvio, what do you think?
Yeah.
He says yeah.
Thumbs up halfway on the screen.
Hello.
Silvio, thanks for joining tonight.
Yay. All right. Yeah.
Yay.
Easy.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up our show here. Daniel and Silvio, thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts with again, as a perspective as a recreational karter. I think it's important we do highlight that, because all of us that are in karting at any level, we all got involved at some point. We all had a day one.
Yeah, we sure did. It's been good for us. I think we just happened to hit it right and meet the right people at the right times, and it's been really good ever since. I don't think we've ever had a bad day at the track, and so we like that.
Very cool.
We want to keep it
Well,
running.
I'll see you soon at one of the local Norcal tracks, and thank you for joining us tonight.
All right, we'll see you. We'll see if the little guy can run you down, man.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Silvio. Have a good night.
See ya.
Bye.
And so I'm Jason. This is Norcal Karters. For more information, you can go to norcalkarters.com. And thank you for tuning in tonight. Again, it was a different show. Again, the whole idea was to test out the mobile capability here, and it was perfect timing because the fire pit is putting out heat, but the flames are gone. So that's a good time to sign off. We like to keep them around an hour. Tune in next week. Ashley's been working very hard in the background. We have Norcal Karting Mechanics show coming up next week, and it's actually been so popular that we're going to break it up into 2 or 3 shows. So tune in next week for our live stream on Monday for the NorCal Karting Mechanics Show. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Our push is for 1,000 subscribers so we can unlock more content and more options on YouTube when we go mobile. So that's the big push now. And again, just a lot of stuff happening here in 2022. And I'm trying to remember what Ashley's final thoughts are. She's listening and she's texting on the chat line. So Ashley, what are your normal final thoughts? I'm gonna give her a second to type. I think it's something like, if you want to be on our show, reach out to Ashley. Slide into the DM, whatever you kids say. But yeah, if you want to be on the show, if you have an idea for a show, send us your suggestions. And my usual closing thoughts on the live streams: if we all get one person in karting this year, we'll double by next year. So everybody, have a great evening, and thank you for tuning in.